Hello and welcome to Calls. This is the June 11th MLB DraftKings lineup card. Only 5 games on the evening slate tonight, and one of those is the second half of a doubleheader, so not a lot of analysis that we can go into for that one until we see who starts in that lineup, which we won't by the end of this show. So really 4 games to deeply dive into the data for today. I want to hear about your all's June 10th DraftKings contests. I was very unfortunate in the sense that I had a lot of the correct players and not all on the same team. So things like stacking the Toronto Blue Jays happened to be with the team that I used, Aaron Ashby, who got absolutely lit up. Then I would use somebody like Tristan McKenzie, who was okay, and used him in a stack with Royals per se that were okay. So a little unfortunate, and some pretty bad calls as well. The St. Louis Cardinals stack that I was going on about yesterday didn't pan out. The mini stack of Ty France and Eugenio Suarez didn't work out. So good and bad from yesterday. So I want to hear about your all's June 10th contests. But let's get through the intro here so we can cover today's games. All statistics provided today and every day are from baseballreference.com. It is the best tool out there for anything baseball statistic related. If you want ballpark statistics, matchups between hitter and pitcher, platoon splits, even umpire stats. It has it all. Go check them out. It's well worth your investment. In the descriptions of the videos, there are links to my social media. This is where I post my betting cards for the golf content that I create, as well as interesting research throughout the week for baseball and golf. So if you want to see part of that research, give me a follow in the descriptions to the links to my social media. And then finally, we're live. Chat's open. I want to hear again about last night's contests. Who are you thinking about using today? All of that good stuff. So let's dig into the June 11th slate for MLB DraftKings. And as I get situated here, the first game on the docket, we are at Oracle Park in the Bay for the Dodgers and the Giants. And I was pretty happy to say that I used 0 of Walker Buehler. He has just not been good this year. And he got hit around quite a bit last night as well. If you followed any of the suggestions for the Giants, I hope you followed the Darren Ruff one, as he had a monster game, couple homers. Yastrzemski didn't hit all that much, so on and so forth. So a game that I will say I got semi-right. But the pitching matchup for today's game, at least today out on the West Coast, is Clayton Kershaw versus Sam Long. Now Kershaw coming back off the IL today. I imagine he'll be on a pitch count, but he has pitched extremely well in the first part of the season. 4-0, 1.8 ERA in 5 starts. I mean, in those 5 starts, he averaged more than 24 points per start. Now the worry here obviously is that pitch count that he is probably on in his first appearance since coming back from the IL. So against him, the Giants lineup, of course, having faced him for years, the lifelong Dodger player that Kershaw is, you've got quite a bit of plate appearances here. So I'm going to go through some of those. Wilmer Flores has some decent numbers against Kershaw in his career, hitting .261 against him, 6 for 23 with a double and a homer. So he's averaging 1.2 points per plate appearance against Kershaw. And Flores having a decent season overall as well, hitting .251, a few homers. So not in love with the play, especially at first base at 4,200. I believe there are a lot better options, but if you do not want to use Kershaw, or you think that he is going to be out of this game fairly quickly, then Wilmer Flores would be worth a look in a Giant stack. The next player, Evan Longoria, a lot more success, but not as many extra base hits. 9 for 30, so he's hitting 300 in his career against Clayton Kershaw, but only 2 doubles in those 9 hits. So he's averaging just over 1 point per plate appearance against Kershaw, but the righty hitting Longoria against the lefty throwing Kershaw makes it a slightly more appealing. And then 2 outfielders here that I would be pretty excited to use. Even though Mike Yastrzemski hits left-handed, his numbers against Kershaw are really, really good. 3 for 7 with a double and a homer, averaging 2.5 points per plate appearance against Kershaw in his career. And Yastrzemski, even though he had a rough night last night, he's still hitting 273, 13 doubles, 5 homers. He's averaged 1.8 points per plate appearance on the season as a whole. So Yastrzemski, even at 4,500, I would be willing to use in a giant stack. But the one player I'm very, very excited for, if he's in the lineup, and again, it's no guarantee that he is, but Austin Slater against Clayton Kershaw in his career, 6 for 15 with 3 homers. So he's averaging more than 2.6 points per plate appearance. Slater hitting 257 on the season, getting on base 38% of the time. There's a lot to like here with Austin Slater. So if he is in the lineup, generally he's hitting at the top of the lineup as well, especially leadoff. So if he is indeed leading off and at 2,800, I really like Austin Slater this evening. So, and then for the Dodgers lineup against Sam Long. Sam Long has made a couple of starts this season, but he is generally a reliever. And he will be pitching on only 3 days rest. So I imagine that the Giants will be going to a semi bullpen game. They are not going full on opener, but I imagine we would see about 4 or 5 pitchers in this game for San Francisco. Long left-handed, at the bare minimum you see there. He has pitched well out of relief, but he is not a strikeout guy. 10 strikeouts in 15 1/3 innings. There is not a lot of plate appearances against him, obviously being a reliever. But Freddie Freeman, 2 for 3. One of those is a triple. And then Cody Bellinger is 1 for 3 with a double. I didn't highlight Bellinger. I don't like the price, just right at around 4,000. Instead, I've highlighted Gavin Lux, who's got second base and outfield eligibility today. Gavin Lux is 1 for 1. Like I said, there is not a lot of exposure or plate appearances against Sam Long. So I've highlighted the 2 players that I would highly consider, and then Bellinger is at least 1 for 3. But other players here, you have Mookie Betts 0 for 1, Will Smith 0 for 1, Trey Turner 0 for 0, hit by a pitch. So he has a plate appearance, but didn't count as official at bat. There's just not a lot to go on here. And I think there are some decent options elsewhere in the day that you don't have to force a Mookie Betts, that you don't have to force a Trey Turner. For that matter, you don't have to force a Freddie Freeman, but at least Freeman has some success against Sam Long. So 2 pitchers that very, very well could be on a pitch count today. This might be a heavy bullpen game. It's definitely going to be that way for San Francisco. We'll see how efficient and how long Dave Roberts lets Clayton Kershaw go. But that is a look at the game at Oracle Park today. We move to game 2, Chicago Cubs at Yankee Stadium to take on the Yankees. This is a game that, again, I got fairly right in the sense that I was really, really high on Luis Severino. He pitched excellent yesterday, so I didn't think the Cubs were going to score a lot of runs. But Wade Miley pitched really darn well. He only went 4 innings, but the Cubs bullpen also held the Yankees as it went into extras. So, I was not correct on my semi-lock of the day for Marwin Gonzalez. He did have 1 hit, so wasn't all that great of a lock by any means. But for today, we've got Matt Swarmer, the rookie, making his 3rd start. He has pitched extremely well in his 2 starts. The first one against the Brewers, and then last weekend against the Cardinals in a doubleheader. Swarmer 1-0. He's pitched 12 innings, so 6 innings per start. 11 strikeouts in 12 innings. He's only given up 7 hits and 3 walks, so his whip is under 1. So he's had 21.5 points per game against 2 pretty potent offenses. The difference is those games were at Wrigley, and I know for a fact that the wind was blowing in against the Cardinals last week. I do not know what the wind was doing against Milwaukee on his day that he started, but the wind's blowing out to left center at Yankee Stadium today. And another thing with Matt Swarmer, he is an extreme fly ball pitcher, and he is very, very homer prone. He has already given up 3 home runs in his 2 starts. So you're talking about home runs, wind blowing out against a Yankees lineup. I don't like Swarmer today in this spot. Of course, I said that about Caleb Killian last week against the Cardinals, and Killian pitched extremely well. So I have enough concern here with Matt Swarmer. But let's cover the Cubs offense first against Jordan Montgomery. Again, with an interleague matchup, not a lot of plate appearances against each other, but those that do, I have highlighted here Yan Gomes. He was activated off the injured list yesterday. He is 2 for 7 in his career against Jordan Montgomery, both of them singles, but at a starved position like catcher, especially in a small contest or small slate like today, Yan Gomes presents some interesting value at 3,600. Wilson Contreras 0 for 3, so if you're willing to take the gamble, he's probably well worth it, but he is 0 for 3 against Jordan Montgomery. And then the other couple of players I've got here, Christopher Morel, obviously no experienced rookie, but has been hitting at the top of the order for the Cubs since he has come up. Christopher Morel hitting 303, already 12 extra base hits in 103 plate appearances, 6 steals as well. Morel has been very, very good since he has come up from the minors. A lot to like there, somebody to think about. And then Andrelton Simmons, the shortstop, second base and shortstop eligible. His time in Los Angeles with the Angels against Jordan Montgomery, 3 for 5, all singles, so don't get terribly excited. But at 2,000, presents some value if he can indeed get a couple of hits for you at the bargain basement price of the minimum 2,000. So those 3 players are worth a look for the Cubs today against Jordan Montgomery. Now we'll talk about the Yankees' high-powered offense with the wind blowing out to left center. We'll start with Jose Trevino, and that is due to the fact that, again, with the small slate and catcher being a pretty starved position overall, just like Yan Gomes, Jose Trevino, obviously no plate appearances against Swarmer, but Trevino has been pretty darn good for the Yankees. He's hitting 290, 4 homers, getting on base 34% of the time. And Trevino's not going to break the bank. He's a very good mid-price option, I think, today in the catcher market. Then you come to Matt Carpenter, first and third eligible. Carpenter has 4 homers already in his short time with the Yankees. Again, this is a fly ball hitter in a home run park with the wind blowing out. Now, not to right center, but to left center. This is a play completely on the lefty-righty. And then the 2 outfielders, Aaron Judge, no explanation needed, but leading the league in homers with 22. Yeah, it's crazy. He has had 2.5 points per plate appearance this season. Aaron Judge, if you're willing to go to 6,300, probably going to be worth it, and probably useful in a stack of Yankees. But Joey Gallo is my kind of bold call today. Don't know how much I'll use him, but I'll definitely be using some of Joey Gallo. He is only hitting 190 this season, but he does have 8 homers in some limited plate appearances, at least limited in comparison to the rest of his teammates. So the power has always been there. The short porch and right with a fly ball pitcher. This is quite speculative, I know that, but this is a kind of a gut feeling bold call on my end. Take a look at Joey Gallo at 3,800. So there's the look at the game in the Bronx. We move to game 3. The Mets take on the Angels, and again, not a lot of exposure or plate appearances between pitchers and hitters. I had it incorrect yesterday when I brought up this game that Lorenzen was the expected starter. He is today's expected starter, but it's Carlos Carrasco against Michael Lorenzen at Angel Stadium, and Carrasco has pitched extremely well this year, 7-1. 61 strikeouts in 64 innings. He is averaging almost 18 points per start. So really like Carrasco today at 9,400. He's the 3rd highest pitcher on the board. He's probably 2nd in my rankings. Even though he's going to be on a pitch count, Clayton Kershaw's probably the number 1 pitcher on the board today. But I'm very high on Carlos Carrasco. And the reason why is none of the Angels hitters have done well against him at all. Andrew Velazquez at a shortstop position that is not very loaded today. Take a look at Velazquez. He is sitting at 2,500. Velazquez is only hitting 175 on the year, but is coming off a pretty good game last night. 5 doubles, 3 homers, also has 8 steals, so if he does get on base, he can get you those 5 points. So take a look at Velazquez at a shortstop starved position, and then it is no guarantee with him battling the groin issue, but if Mike Trout is in the lineup, Mike Trout has some success against Carlos Carrasco. 3 for 11 with 2 doubles, so averaging 1.3 points per plate appearance in his career against Carrasco. So it's not a guarantee by any means, and I'm not sure if I'd want to go Mike Trout if I have that kind of money at 5,200, especially because I don't like an Angel stack. Rendon just came off the injured list yesterday. He's 0 for 2 against Carrasco. Let's see. You got Kurt Suzuki, 1 for 8. Ohtani's only faced him once, but it was 0 for 1. Just not a lot here that I like for the Angels. That's why I'm very high on Carrasco. Now for the Mets against Michael Lorenzen, a lot of these plate appearances are from Lorenzen's time in relief in Cincinnati, but the one player who has a lot of plate appearances against Lorenzen is Starling Marte at the same exact price that Mike Trout is. You've got Starling Marte 6 for 17, hitting 353 in his career against Michael Lorenzen with 2 doubles and a homer, 3 walks, averaging 1.7 points per plate appearance against Lorenzen in his career, and Marte having a fantastic season, as we talked about last night. So really like Starling Marte in the outfield today. And then elsewhere in this Mets lineup, you've got McNeil and Brandon Nimmo, a couple of left-handed speculative plays with Michael Lorenzen throwing right-handed. McNeil 0 for 0. He does have 2 walks. So 2 plate appearances, 2 walks, so at least he is patient and sees the ball well out of Lorenzen's hand. Nimmo 1 for 4 with a double, and then Eduardo Escobar 1 for 1. So not a lot here in terms of experience. So I've listed the players that have at least some minimal success in the small sample size. But I really do like Starling Marte today for the Mets against Michael Lorenzen. So we move to game 4, which is one game that I got really, really incorrect yesterday. Boston and Seattle. We had to T-Mobile Park. This was a game that I mentioned that I was trying to stack. If you did use JD Martinez, you did get some value. Eugenio Suarez was probably the closest thing to I had a lock yesterday in terms of lineups. Did go 1 for 5 with a double, but by no means was a successful lock. So I'm going to run it back today, essentially, and this is a game that I am trying to attack all angles of. So I got a couple of notes here. So George Kirby pitched against the Red Sox on May 19th. He went 5 innings, gave up 8 hits, 5 earned, 1 walk, and 3 strikeouts. So that was his only appearance against Boston in his career. So I've highlighted some players here who had a very successful game. So Vasquez was 1 for 2 with a double. JD Martinez 2 for 3. And then Alex Verdugo was 2 for 3 with a double. So those players had some success against George Kirby. But the one player I skipped, if you remember the tear that Trevor Story was on for about a week, it was highlighted by this game against George Kirby. This was the 3-homer game for Trevor Story, the first 2 coming off of George Kirby. So Trevor Story was 2 for 3 with 2 homers, 2 for 2 with 2 homers against George Kirby that day. So I've highlighted Trevor Story. I'll probably run it back with him. He is the most expensive second baseman. He's going to be worth it, I think. And a decent little stack here for the Red Sox. Vasquez, a mid-priced catcher that I don't mind with Trevino and with Yan Gomes if he's playing. Some of these middle-priced catchers is why I'm not going up to a Will Smith, why I'm not going up to a Wilson Contreras. I think there's a lot of value at catcher today. And then Trevor Story, the highest priced second baseman. JD Martinez, the year he's having. Verdugo, like I said, 2 for 3 in his game against George Kirby, hitting .250 on the season, but is tied for 3rd on this Boston team in doubles. I like what Verdugo can provide, especially hitting probably out of the 5th hole or number 5 hole or 2nd, either way. So there's a look at the Red Sox lineup against George Kirby. And then on May 20th, Michael Wacha faced the Mariners at Fenway in that series. And Wacha did not have a great game either. He went 4 2/3, gave up 4 hits, 2 earned, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. But the Seattle hitters have more experience against Michael Wacha. And Wacha's pitched pretty darn well this year. 4-1, ERA right at 2, but he is not a strikeout pitcher. Wacha's averaging about 16 points per start. A lot of that is in the innings and quality thereof. But the players for Seattle, especially when Wacha was in St. Louis in the National League Central with other teams. First off, we'll talk about Adam Frazier, 4 for 14 with a double and a homer, a couple of walks, averaging a little more than 1.5 points per plate appearance against Michael Wacha in his career. Now, the issue with Adam Frazier is he has not generally been hitting at the top of the lineup anymore for Seattle. He has been hitting 5th, 6th, 7th, somewhere around there. So if he is indeed at that spot in the order today, I really don't like using Adam Frazier with that much money, with him not hitting leadoff. I'd much rather go to Trevor Story and find somewhere else to save some money. And then we'll talk about Eugenio Suarez. Again, going to run it back with him. His numbers from his time in Cincinnati against Wacha, 12 for 31, 2 doubles and a homer, averaging a little more than 1.5 points per plate appearance against Michael Wacha. At a third base position that has a few options, I really do like Eugenio Suarez, especially if you're going to attack Michael Wacha. Use some Mariners, use a stack with a limited slate tonight. So Suarez has quite a bit of exposure and success. And then finally, I didn't highlight him, but Jesse Winker, also in his time in Cincinnati, 4 for 12, all of them singles. That's why I didn't highlight him, but it is absolutely an option. Now let's talk about the players that did face Michael Wacha in that game in Boston on May 20th. Luis Torrens, 2 for 4, 2 singles, but at a catcher position, again, that's generally starved. You've got 2 pretty good options here, I think, today in Vasquez and Torrens to add to the Yankees and Cubs game with Trevino and Yan Gomes. You've got a lot of mid-priced options here that I like at the catcher position today. So Luis Torrens, 2 for 4. You also have J.P. Crawford. A little bit of time in Philadelphia, but having faced Wacha last year when he was in Tampa Bay. J.P. Crawford, 3 for 8 with a double and a homer and 2 walks. So he's averaged more than 2.1 points per plate appearance against Michael Wacha. Really like J.P. Crawford, and he won't break the bank either at 4,400 at shortstop. So J.P. Crawford, take a long look at him. And then Ty France for Seattle in first base, 7 for 9 against Wacha in his career with 3 doubles. And France, I mean, the year he's having very quietly, hitting .330, 11 doubles, 9 homers, getting on base more than 40% of the time. I believe Ty France will absolutely be worth his 5,100 today and must be used in a stack if you're going to go to any of the Mariners. France is the start of your stack. So that's a look at the game in Seattle. We end with the nightcap, the game that is the second of the doubleheader. We move to Petco, and when I bring up these players, this is just like I did last week with the Cubs and the Cardinals and their second game of the doubleheader. These are not the players that I'm advocating using. These are the players that are not playing, or at least not in the starting lineup for the first game. Because quite honestly, none of these players really excite me, save for maybe Garrett Hampson. So first, let's talk about the pitching matchup here. You got Kyle Freeland, struggled pretty mightily this season, averaging just at 10.5 points per start, 1-5. The ERA isn't terrible, but he's only got 45 strikeouts and 60 innings. No, I want no part of Kyle Freeland today. And then Mackenzie Gore, his rookie season has been everything that he has been hyped up to be as one of the top pitching prospects in baseball. 4-1, 1.5 ERA, 57 strikeouts and 48 innings. I mean, Mackenzie Gore seems like the real deal and just another arm for this loaded Padres rotation. He has not faced Colorado yet in his young career, but not a lot to like here, Colorado-wise. The one player that I might have some consideration for, especially at shortstop if I don't go to J.P. Crawford, is Garrett Hampson. Hitting .258. Not a lot of extra base power, so it's all predicated on getting on base, using his legs. He is a stolen base threat, and at a shortstop position that doesn't have a lot today except for maybe J.P. Crawford and Andrelton Simmons if you want to go there. Garrett Hampson might be worth it. Now this Rockies offense has been struggling. Got shut out last night by Joe Musgrove. I'm not excited about Garrett Hampson, but it is an option. I'd be much more interested if he is hitting at or near the top of the lineup. But a couple of other Rockies players, again, that I didn't highlight because these 4 are the ones that are not playing in the first game. Take a look at Brendan Rodgers. If he is in the lineup, Rodgers has really started to heat up, hitting .261, 10 doubles, 6 homers, getting on base 31% of the time. So take a look at Brendan Rodgers at second base. That has a few options, But if you're looking to maybe attack Mackenzie Gore, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you're wanting to take a look at Brendan Rodgers, Brian Serven and Daza are the other two players that I had highlighted before the lineups came out. They are both playing in the first game. So I imagine that Brian Serven's not going to catch both games of the doubleheader. So he's pretty well out unless he is DHing. And then Daza very well could play both games. But again, since we don't know the lineups beforehand, and with it being the second game of a doubleheader, was hesitant to put a highlight on him. So the lineup for the Rockies in this first game: Connor Joe, Charlie Blackmon, who's the DH, so he might move to the outfield for the second game, and give some guys rest for the doubleheader. And then C.J. Cron, Brendan Rodgers hitting fourth, McMahon, Iglesias, Daza, Hilliard, and Brian Serven. So that's the lineup for the Rockies in game one of the doubleheader. And with Mackenzie Gore, the left-handed throwing pitcher for San Diego, they have a lot of righties available tonight, or at least I imagine that was the strategy, considering all four of the players here hit right-handed that are on the bench for game one. And then for the Padres lineup today, the first game, it's Profar, Cronenworth, Machado, Voit is the DH hitting fourth, Hosmer, Mazzara, Alfaro, Trent Grisham, and Kim. So you see the four players that aren't playing for San Diego in game one. Austin Nola is going to catch. You got Sergio Alcantara, the utility infielder, and then the two outfielders, Azokar and Brent Rooker. Again, none of these plays I'm really in love with at all. Austin Nola 1 for 5 in his career against Kyle Freeland. Not a lot to be excited about there. Azokar never faced him. Alcantara never faced him. So if the players are in the lineup for the second game for San Diego, take a look at obviously Manny Machado, but his numbers against Kyle Freeland also warrant a highlight. 9 for 26 with 5 doubles and 4 walks. So Manny Machado, premium player. You're going to be paying for it at third base, but he's well worth it if he is indeed in the lineup for the second game. I mentioned him yesterday, Eric Hosmer. Even though Hosmer is left-handed, facing a left-handed throwing Kyle Freeland, Hosmer has some decent success. 5 for 19 with a double and a couple of walks. And then lastly, all of the points are predicated on power, but Trent Grisham does have a home run against Kyle Freeland. Grisham has had a terrible season so far, only hitting 180, but he does have 10 doubles, 2 triples, and 3 homers, so the extra base power is there, but you don't like the batting average at all. So that is a look at the game at Petco Park. Again, I am not advocating using 7 of these 8 and almost 8 of 8 of these players. These are just the players that are not playing in game one of the doubleheader. So we'll move back to the intro here, see if any lineups are out yet, and then call it a day. So reload the page here for DraftKings. The Dodgers and Giants lineup is not out. Cubs and Yankees. The Yankees lineup is out. So we move back to the Bronx very quickly. And for the Yankees, you have Aaron Judge leading off. That really adds to his appeal, makes the 6,300 quite a bit more appealing in a game that I think the Yankees are going to score quite a bit of runs. So Judge leading off. You've got Stanton hitting 4th. Trevino is hitting 8th. Joey Gallo is hitting 9th. So I really like Trevino. Aaron Judge at 6,300, if you have the money, probably going to be well worth it today. And then Gallo is all speculation, but a good feeling. I have a gut feeling, but a good feeling. So that is the Cubs and Yankees. I doubt the other 3 games lineups. In fact, we know that the second game of the Padres and Rockies won't be out, but Mets and Angels not out yet, and Boston and Seattle not out yet. So only one lineup to cover for the games that are on the evening slate. Only one lineup is out. So we'll bring you back to the intro here. But let me know in the comments how your June 11th MLB DraftKings slate goes. I am pretty high on a couple of pitchers: Mackenzie Gore, Clayton Kershaw, Carlos Carrasco. Might even dip my toe a little bit into Michael Lorenzen or maybe a Jordan Montgomery if I think the Cubs might struggle, or if I need some uniqueness, throwing a curveball on some lineups. But Kershaw, Gore, Carrasco, highest three price pitchers. I really like them today. A lot of value at catcher, I think, today. So let me know in the comments who you used, any of the success that you have. Just want to hear about all that. I appreciate the support. You all tuning in, watching. It's always appreciated for your MLB DraftKings contest slate for June 11th. May all your bets be profitable.